Oh, wait. I need this. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me here. It means a lot to me to be speaking in Minneapolis, as this is where I started my career. And when Bunny asked me to do this, I really had to reflect upon my professional life, which, knowing me, means I had to reflect upon my personal life. And I thought there was something that was important to me that I really wanted to share with you all. And that's that when you live a rich personal life and you let that life get into your work, then your work just becomes better. So I'm going to share the journey that I've been on and how it's affected my career, and hopefully this will help you in yours. So this is one of the very first projects I worked on when I first moved to the US. And I was an exchange student from Mexico City at MCAT, and Lori, who is sitting right there, was my teacher. And this was an amazing experience for me. She gave us an assignment to design an identity system for ourselves. And I did this. And you can't see it so well because it's a little bit blurry, but basically, my whole concept was that I wanted to be an illustrator, and I wanted to be a product designer, and I wanted to be a graphic designer, so I kind of wanted to do everything. So there it is. And on the other side, and you don't know this because I haven't told you, but Lori decided to put a paper promotion of 12 of her students of the identities they had designed, which was amazing. When you're like 20 years old, you're like, yeah, you know, you're so excited. So you also don't know this, but I got to intern with Lori after I had been her student because I loved her so much. So I got to work on this project as well. And for my spread, she asked me to do some illustrations, put together a little collage. And so this was my first project and an amazing experience. This is another project that I worked on with Lori, and this was for Target stores. Target approached the studio and asked for us to design these cafeteria beverage cups for hot drinks and cold drinks. And at this time in my life, I was living with two illustrators, so I was kind of exploring a lot with my illustration style and everything. And Lori, I think, was drawn to that, and she asked me to try to do some like illustrations for one of the versions, and then she played with them. And this is a version that got chosen. So we got to see these cups in every Target around the country, and it was so cool, you know. It's like you can see how design can reach out. And for me, it was also a good example of how my personal work could become part of my professional work, and it could be successful. So after a while working with Lori, I had started to be curious of what it would be like to work at a larger design studio. And I had a bunch of friends that worked at Duffy. So I started being curious about it, and I had the opportunity to go work there. And this was really crazy for me. Like, I went to having a very nurturing and intimate environment where I had like lunch with Lori and Chuck at you know, in their table, and it was just so intimate. And all of a sudden, I was working in this big building downtown, 3 floors. Duffy was still part of Fallon, which was a huge ad agency. So I was one of 2 girl designers in the team. Everyone else was a guy. So it was just really kind of wildly different, which was good for me because it helped me expand my work, and it helped me expand my thinking. And it just showed me another side of design that I hadn't been exposed to before. So at this time, my personal and professional life are totally intermingled. Through some of my friends at Duffy, I met this designer that worked in the New York office. And he looked like a monkey. And he thought I looked like a mushroom. And we fell in love. And then I found myself in a long-distance relationship. And because I was so in love, I'm Mexican, so Yesterday you got to see the German, today you get to see the Mexican. We're very different. But yeah, so I was in love. So I would make these little drawings and send them over to him. And you know, we were apart. So here's what the monkey is doing in Minneapolis. Oh no, the monkey in New York, the mushroom in Minneapolis, and we were together, and it's wonderful. And then we broke up. So I was devastated, as you can imagine. I put together a little postcard book of all the drawings we had worked on, or I had worked on, and sent to him. So at this point in my life, I'm like, you know, I've been dating Monkey for a year, and I'm obsessed with New York because I've been visiting him, and I'm like, I want to live here, and it's going to be wonderful. And I get a job in New York. So I moved to New York, and it's not wonderful, and everything smells. And my apartment is like, my room was tinier than my closet in Minneapolis. And it was so hot. I was like, these are sketches from my sketchbook. You can see I'm sleeping in this like foam eggshell thing, and it's very tiny. So I was sad, you know, it was a very difficult time, and I was so excited to be there, and then I wasn't excited to be there. I was also working at a very prestigious small design studio, but it was hard for me to get into the work because I felt so insecure about everything that was going on in my life. And to make things a little bit more difficult, after 3 months of working there, the studio went through a slow phase. And as you might know, when there's only 3 people working in a studio, that can be a little bit scary. So I found myself having to look for work just 3 months in. And I talked to a lawyer because, you know, the visa things. And he said, well, you have 2 weeks to find another job. And I was like, okay. And then I called my dad, and he's like, Paulina, this is not a tragedy. You'll be fine. If you don't find a job, you'll come back to Mexico, and we're all good. I was like, but Dad. But anyway, I found 3 jobs, and I got to pick. So I picked Kate Spade, and this was, I think, the best thing that could have happened to me at this time, because at Kate Spade, I was really able to do everything that I loved doing. I was able to do graphic design. I was able to do illustration. And I was able to do product design. So it was like this little dream come true. And I started being a lot happier in New York. I started settling down. I got over my ex, and it was just like, okay, you know, I have a life now. And I think the happiness that I was feeling reflected in this work. And I think just feeling a little bit more confident at work also made me happier. And then 2 years into working at Kate, I discovered the circus. And I think this is one of the best things that has ever happened to me because, as you can tell, I'm not wearing a harness or anything else. So it's a dangerous activity. Dangerous activities require full concentration. So that means your brain's not thinking about work. And that was a really wonderful thing for me to discover, is just having a space of yourself where you're not thinking about work and where you can separate. So since then, I've found other activities that allow me to do that. And I think that's just something that's good for you to know. It's not related to design, but it's more related to design than you might think. And I guess color. I was into color at the time, and I still am. This is one of the favorite projects I've ever worked on. It was a little project. I was doing these postcards for Song Airlines, and then Andy Spade, who was the lead creative in our team, was like, Paulina, I like them. Like, let's make stuff. She's like, I want you to make plates. So then I would stay late and just make stuff. I'm like, yeah. So we made stuff, and this is the stuff that came out. And I just love this project. And then I worked at Kate for like 5 years. So, you start getting more responsibilities. So after a while, I started getting the opportunity to do art direction for some of the products we were designing. And this was a very rare opportunity that you would get to work on a product for, like, say, in this case, the home collection, which I designed, I illustrated, and I oversaw the production of. And not only that, but then you're all of a sudden getting to art direct, the photo shoot for it. So you really are able to develop this holistic vision about the product, how it relates to the brand, and then the way it's projected into the world. And this also happened at a time where I wasn't so senior that I wasn't working with my hands anymore. I was still executing, so it was really nice to get that opportunity to be so hands-on on a project and see it through. This is another ad campaign that I worked on with my best friend at Kate, Joe Langford, who was my partner on the website side. And these are a few other images. What's also great about this ad campaign is that some of the products here were actually designed by the creative team. So it was like a fun, holistic thing. So one day, Andy comes in and he's like, we need more stuff in the store. We need something fun, we need something personal, and I want you guys to make books. And we're like, Andy, we're so busy. No, we need to make books. And then we're like, okay, that's great, love the opportunity. So he said, Paulina, what about that book thing you showed me on when you interviewed about the monkey? And I was just like, yeah. And I brought my illustrations out. We made this little book. And we printed it, sold it in the stores, and it sold out. And I started getting all these really sweet emails from people saying, oh, I love your book. And it was just really, really nice to see people responding so well to something that was so personal to me, and to see it become a commercial success. And here's an ad of all the books we put together. Each designer in the group designed one or two. One of the girls did a 4 to 5 flip book, that last hour in the day where so that was really funny. And this is a project that also means a lot to me. It was another one of those Andy last minute, we need something more exciting. And so this was a summer tote, and he was like, Paulina, just make something fun. And I did this design based on Mexican indigenous traditional work. And it sold really well, and it was a huge success. And I felt really guilty about it, because it was produced in China, and this is completely normal, so it's not like I should have been shocked by any of this. And I wasn't shocked, but I just felt bad, because I felt like I did this thing, and it was inspired by my culture, but it didn't give back to my culture. So it made me really start thinking about, can I do a project where I'm actually giving back to the community that I'm being inspired by? So this opportunity came a few years after. We were approached by the Cooper Hewitt National Design Museum and the Nature Conservancy for a project called Design for a Living World. So they assigned 10 different designers of various disciplines to travel around the world and work with a natural resource. I got to work on this project, and I traveled to Bolivia and worked with 3 different communities. This one is with a fiber called Hippie Hapa, and I made 3 different bags. So these are the sketches for the bags. I knew that one of the communities was specialized in making hammocks with cotton, so the middle bag is inspired by hammocks. It's just like the idea of creating a hammock bag. And then the other 2 are just more like trying to use classic Kate Spade shapes while merging with the indigenous work that I knew they were able to do. And these are the finished products, and as you can see, they changed it a lot, but they still kept the Kate Spade graphic solid shapes aesthetic. The change is a good thing for me, because it means that it was a successful collaboration with the communities. They were able to look at the sketches, give me feedback on what they thought they could make better, what they thought the technique could do, and what wasn't really that possible. It was an interesting project. I had only 1 week to work with 3 communities, and I don't think they're so used to working on New York schedule, so they were a little bit. But I think it helped that I'm from Mexico and I could speak in Spanish, and I think it helped that I have a telenovela accent in Spanish, so they were instantly kind of warmed up to me that way. This was an amazing project. So after working at 5 years at Kate and going through the sale of the company, watching Andy and Kate leave, and just things change around me so much, I stayed for another year, and then I just felt like this doesn't feel like home anymore, and I wanted to do something new. So Brian Collins gave me the opportunity to freelance for him 6 months. And this was really wonderful. I was again working with all guys, so I was like the only girl again. But they were really smart guys, and I liked them a lot. And we worked on this project, designing his identity at this time. And his identity was all based on the Colin. The idea that Colin's collaborating with a client, anything could happen, and you just don't know what's next. And not that this came from what was going on in my life, but that's exactly what was going on in my life, was knowing something's about to happen, having no idea what's next. This is another project we worked on at Collins, which coincidentally also really reflects this idea of new and transitions. This was around 2009, when, as you can remember, there was not that much work around, and it was a little bit scary. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I had this opportunity to work at Victoria's Secret. And this wasn't part of my plan. So I was a little bit like, oh, I don't know, it's so girly. I don't know if, I mean, not that I'm not girly, but I took the opportunity because I needed work, and it taught me so much. First, it taught me to be a little bit more humble and not assume that I know everything and like exactly what place is great to work at until I actually work there, because things can be deceiving. And also, I was able to use illustration. I was able to use product design. They had in-house engineers that were amazing. And I was also able to use graphic design. So this was like such a great experience. And the deadlines were so tight that everything got produced. So that was really fun too. After 3 months freelancing there, they offered me a full-time job, and for the first time, I was responsible for directing a team. And I also learned how much I love doing that and how much I love to manage. So it was a very, very positive experience in my life. This is another project that I worked on at VS. And for the first time too, I was designing for a client that was also not myself, like it was at Kate. So this was a challenging but good experience as well. And then I had more free time because the hours there were amazing. So I just did more work. So I did some work for friends of mine. This was for Katie Hatch at Harvey Faircloth. I did the print for spring collection. And this is for another friend of mine who I had worked with at Kate, Whit. And I did an African face-based, paint-based print. And then this is another print I did for Whitney. So it's really, really fun collaborating with friends. And then this is a project I did last year for West Elm. They were doing a spring collection and loved the fact that I was Mexican. So we were like, we want something bright. And so these are some of the sketches you can see in my apartment. And this is where really my work and my life come together. This is where I live, and this is also where I do work outside of work. And you can see where I have my breakfast is where I paint, and where I have my coffee in the morning is where I store my artwork. So it's all intertwined. And this is my new home away from home. This is Mother, and I've been working at Mother for the last 2.5 years. It's a creative agency with offices in New York and Argentina. And we have an advertising side, an experience side, as well as a design group led by Michael Kay. And the one thing that I think makes Mother so special, well, it's not the one, but it's one of the main, is how focused they are on paying attention to the individuals that work there. When you come in, this is the first thing you see, and it's all our moms, who we always try to make proud. So there it is, my mom's, where's my mom? Right there on the corner, she's so pretty. And this is the kitchen, and this is where we all come together every morning, every afternoon, at all times. This is the kitchen's full, and the partners really encourage us to get to know each other and really make Mother feel like a home. And these are the dogs from the employees that are encouraged to come into the office. We also love the idea of building a community. This is our roof deck, and for this project, we kind of invited we invited a street artist to paint a mural And this is what he did. And we are constantly doing that, having collaborations with all sorts of people. And this is where we work. We work very publicly on huge blackboards. There's no like hiding your designs from anybody. The boards are full of stuff starting from research all the way to completion. And it's a really nice way to see what other teams are up to become a little bit separated from your work and not feel like it's just yours, it belongs to the team. And it's just a really, really nice way of working. It's great for clients to also see process. And this is the project that I worked on last year with my team. It's a book we designed for Todd Selby, who is a fashion photographer that's also really well known for photographing creatives in their environment. Opening spread, you see some fridge magnets that he illustrated. And then just a few spreads. We really were trying to make this feel very intimate and very almost like journalistic, like his own journal. At the same time we're working on the Selfie Book, we thought it'd be so great to have an art gallery at Mother. And for those of you familiar with New York, we're way deep into Hell's Kitchen on 11th Avenue and 44th, so there's not that much going on around there. So we're activating the neighborhood. And so we started the Peanut Gallery, and a designer on my team actually worked on it. But he didn't just work on it, he led this project. And that's another amazing thing about Mother. Like if you have the energy and you're up to the challenge, it doesn't matter if you're a junior designer, you'll be given the responsibility. And he did an amazing job. His name is Damien. And for the first show, we had an exhibit of Todd Selby's images from the book. And this is also typical Mother, like there might be a project that seems small, but if we're engaged and we're interested, we'll find ways to make it grow. And accompanying the exhibit, we also had a little small talk. There's Michael. It's not the most flattering image, but it's the only one we had. And then there's Todd. So they had a little Q&A, and then you can get to see how, you know, a typical Mother event, we'll all have all the employees will be invited, as well as our friends in the design community. And this just shows you how, you know, all individuals are welcome to come in as they are and enjoy the company of others and just making our work all better. And that's it. Thank you. Which one's mine?
That one can be yours.
Okay.
So Mother is about the most movie set perfect version of a design studio that I've ever seen. I guess you're designers. That becomes a self-conscious creation of a place, right?
Exactly.
So you're an illustrator as well as a designer, as some large minority of designers and art directors are. Do you feel like you have a different head for doing each?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel like with illustration, you can be a little bit less constrained and a little bit more experimental, a little bit more free. And I think, especially at Mother, you know, because Michael's head is so different from mine, I definitely feel like I have to follow a different sort of process, which is not that different, but it's a little bit more
linear and systematic. And do you, I presume though, as a designer, you toggle back and forth between those two versions of yourself?
I mean, they're all there, so it's just like, you know, like using your foot instead of your hand or a little.
But now that you've started managing a team, that there is less, no doubt, time for the wandering freedom of the illustration part of you, yeah?
Yeah, but I let them have their own. Like, I think that's something that's different from other design directors maybe, is that I really encourage their own side of experimentation, because I know great things will come of that. So I like to make that space. And I feel like it's less about me now, and it's more about the work and just making sure they grow and that they have that space to grow. And this other side can get satisfied in different ways, but I try not to get in there and micromanage, you know? So.
Well, it's as if you went from being oh, I'm happy for Kate Spade to take credit for all these things I'm designing, to being, oh, I'm happy for all of the people working for me to take credit for all the things we're designing?
I still take credit.
Yeah.
I mean, not for them.
You actually have an
like,
ego? Yeah.
No, I feel like it's like the credit goes to all, you know? My success is Michael's success, my team's success is my success, so it's gotta be generous.
Yeah.
You know?
And you talk about the importance of letting your personal vision and personal life merge with and inform your professional life. Does that ever become problematic, or is that just the way you are and things are today?
I mean, I think it's a very personal point of view, and I don't think everyone in the field shares that personal point of view, but it's true for me. So it's not like you're ignoring the client needs, it's not like you're ignoring the brief, but it's just like, is there a way that I can connect with this client, understanding who this client is through a more human, emotional side? So
right.
it's true for me.
So Victoria's Secret, which you said was scary when you were thinking about doing that and deciding to do it, it's interesting to me that one has, I mean, the central idea of the Victoria's Secret brand is this, not just sexy, but highly sexualized set of images. The work you did is so pretty and romantic and not about carnality at all. Yeah. Was that your choice or theirs?
That's the projects I showed.
Yeah. Oh, you did some dirty ones too?
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
And now, as you talked eloquently about wanting to, work in sustainable, helping your local culture ways, have you ever resisted work or turned down work for kind of political, moral reasons?
No, I've never been offered that type of work. So we'll see what happens when I do.
Your character has not been tested by yet?
Not yet. Don't test it. Now
that the United States is going on 20% Hispanic, Latino, does that feel like a great professional opportunity for you? Because clients must come to you and say, oh, she's from Mexico, she speaks Spanish, she can do this.
No, that hasn't happened.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like from the beginning, I felt like a little bit different because I was Mexican, but it never defined my career in a sense that I was pigeonholed. I think it was always more like it gave me a little extra flavor, but
right.
I think I've been able to work as a regular.
No, clearly, but I would think now that we need to get to we need to reach this enormous and growing population. Let's get Paulina.
It hasn't happened yet, but that would be fun. I'd be open to that.
Okay, all of you clients out there watching this in months to come, here's your woman. So you grew up in Mexico City, you moved to the very different city of Minneapolis, you moved from here to the very different city of New York. Tell me about how each of those feels like home or not, feels like a good place to be an artist and a designer.
I mean, I think Mexico City is great because it's really a place that allows for improvisation. I don't know like how many of you have been to Mexico, but whereas Americans tend to follow rules, like really follow rules, Mexicans don't. So that makes it so that there's a lot of things that you can make happen, like, the guy that does the iron work and then the guy that does it, and it's very accessible. So I think that's a great thing for being an artist or a designer in Mexico
It's
City.
DIY in its nature?
Very much. But also it's the land of mañana, so that makes things a little bit slower. Minneapolis was really great because living here was so easy, like apartments were beautiful, people were nice, and it was very nurturing. Like I think my career would have been very different had I not started here. Working with Lori was just like, I felt at home, I didn't feel stressed, I felt excited. And I think that's the way one should feel when one's starting out. And then Duffy was also a community. Like Joe was lovely, all my friends there were lovely. So it was a very nurturing 4 years in my life.
So it was a good halfway house into the United States.
Yeah, but I did feel more foreign when I lived
yeah.
here than I do in New York.
Yeah.
So I think after 4 years, I did feel a little bit like, and of course the relationship thing is always like, will take you places, you know, but I did feel like the need to go to a bigger city. And I think New York has been a good home for me because being Mexican, I'm just like the Chinese person and the Indian person, like I'm just like anybody else. And it's a special thing, but it's also not a special thing. And I love that about New York, is that I'm as much a New Yorker as the next person. And that's a really nice way to feel. And there's work, you know, there's a lot of work in New York, and there's ways to change your life and be anonymous, and there's ways to reinvent yourself, and there's ways to pursue other parts of your career that you didn't thought you could pursue, and there's opportunity, and that's a wonderful thing for a designer, I think.
Paulina Reyes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you.